What's up guys, Scott here. Today I'm going to show you how it's possible to create a great guitar sound using completely free plugins across the board. Now, there are a ton of free plugins and impulse response packs and yada yada yada, and it's easy to get lost with all the free options that you have. However, in this video I'm going to show you exactly how you can get this sound. Alright, let's get started. So, first thing you need to do is you're going to need to download all the files. Now, I've gone through the trouble and I've congregated all the files together in one archive so you can download them. So, the folder is right here as you're seeing on my screen, and you're going to get the included files for Windows or Mac, and you're going to get basically an installation package for the newest version of the RIA plugs. You're going to get the Ignite Amps TS999, the Emissary and NAD-IR, which are also from Ignite Amps. You're going to get the W1 limiter and the guitar impulse. So I've got the session open here in Sonar with the plugin chain that we're going to use. And again, I've opted to use completely free plugins to make this guitar tone. So anyone with any DAW, it's not going to matter. First up in line here we have the TS999. This is basically Ignite Amp's answer to the TS808. I used the TSE808 for years, but after a while I just wanted to try something different. I found the TS999, it worked really well for me. If you'd like to experiment, obviously use the TSE808 or whatever else you want to use. You could also try using the TSB1, which is also from Ignite Amps on the site. The drive is set to 0, tone straight down the middle, and level is also straight down the middle. FAT and ASIM are turned off. Also, one thing, remember that when you bounce your stems out, for example, you're done recording your guitars and you're bouncing out, you want to click this double arrow down here and set the oversampling to 8x for the best quality. But when you're tracking, just keep it on 2x, keep latency low. After that, we have RIA-FEAR. Now, RIA-FEAR is an amazing tool from the Reaper dev team. It has a lot of purposes, but we're actually going to be using it specifically for noise reduction. By using the subtract function of RIA-FEAR, we're able to actually minimize some of this nonsense that comes through our tone when we input the TS999. Now, the digital gunk stuff happens because, in my case, I probably have some bad shielding in my guitar. You can alleviate a lot of these problems that you're having with a good cables, good shielding, and a DI box with a ground lip switch. I have all of the above except my guitar is not shielded, so I still have a little bit of noise. So the reason we put this after the overdrive pedal is because it's at the point where the digital noise is going to be amplified because of the TS999. Okay, if you've got perfect electricity and everything's grounded and your guitar is properly shielded, you probably won't even need this. After that is the RIA gate, primarily just to keep my sanity so that when I'm not playing, I don't hear the little bit of noise hiss going into my headphones. I just set mine here to minus 55 dB with a release of 15 milliseconds. I'll actually remove this when I bounce out stems, and then I'll manually slice silence if there is any. I don't know. I just use the gate for when I'm tracking. After that is our Emissary. So another one from Ignite Amps actually. This has become my go-to high gain amp over the past year or so. Prior to this, I was an avid fan of the LE456. Anyway, all we have to do here is just activate the red channel and nothing else. I decided to leave everything at noon and we'll do our shaping with the EQ instead. Again, when you're done tracking, remember to set the oversampling down here to 8x for the final bounce for the best quality. After that, the NAD-IR. This is our impulse response loader, again from Ignite Amps. If you're still using Le Cab, I would really suggest that you start using NAD-IR. Le Cab will get the job done, but I just prefer NAD-IR. Again, here, up in the right, when you're done tracking and you're bouncing, set the quality to extreme. And finally, we're going to use the RIA EQ. So it's our second plugin from the Reaper dudes. Excellent EQ to use, and being that it's free, it's going to be super excellent, and it's going to be our EQ of choice. We're going to talk more specifically about the EQ moves in a second. Now, talking about the recording chain, specifically my guitar, a very important part of this gets lost in the mix on YouTube, And it's actually, what kind of guitar are you using? What kind of gear are you using? If you have a $5,000 guitar, but you take a cheap cable and you plug it directly into the back of your computer, with the line-in out port, you're going to have a bad time no matter what. Conversely, if you take, I don't know, an average guitar like what I have, and you have decent to good gear for your signal chain, you're going to get a very usable sound. In my case, as I said, my guitar is a 7-string Ibanez Geo, GRG 7221. This is just a budget level 7-string. I have made no changes to it since I bought it. It's got stock pickups, stock everything. The only thing I do is I change the strings, which actually I did about a week ago. And the type of strings I use, I'm a lifelong Ernie Ball user, and because it's a bit hard to find 7-string sets here, I actually just buy an 8-string set. They're called 8-string Slinky Ernie Ball, and I just keep the 74 gauge for, I don't know, I just keep it. I don't feel like throwing anything away. But essentially, I'm playing 10s with the low B being a 64 gauge, and then I'm tuned for this particular check that we're going to look at. I'm tuned E standard with the B. From my guitar, I have a Monster Cable M-Rock that plugs into my Behringer DI100 Ultra DI with minus 20 dB attenuation, and then the ground lift is activated. From there, just your standard XLR cable into my Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 audio interface, the first generation, with the line selector, since we're coming from the DI box now. My levels into the DAW are just, when you're looking at it, just at the top of the green, bottom of the orange, and you do this when you're slamming the strings as hard as you can. So this particular change fixes a lot of the audio problems I was having earlier. I was picking up the radio with my guitar, which obviously, it's bad shielding. I'm looking for a guitar tech who can fix that. But I also had a lot of other digital gunk because I'm in an old Soviet apartment building built in the 1960s. And so the electricity situation here is not the best. But with the really good cables and the DI box, I've minimized a lot of my noise. So now I just have to fix my actual guitar. So I'm sure you're sitting there judging me harshly because I haven't yet told you which impulse we're going to use. I just called it the guitar impulse. Well, relax there, matey, because I'm going to tell you what it is now. So the impulse actually comes from an ultimate metal user by the name of Redline4. He posted it back in July of 2012. This specific one we're using in the video is the Telos RV Ceph IR because it has the SM57 and the MD421 combination. And this is basically like the mainstay for metal guitars. It's a combination used everywhere all the time. You can follow the link in the description to download it directly from his post if you want, but you don't need to because you're going to get it with the archive file that you download from my archive. So now that we've addressed, the recording chain, the plugin chain, how gear affects quality, and the impulse, let's talk about exactly how we're going to do this with the EQ. So you'll remember that we didn't touch any of the knobs on the emissary and that I told you we were going to shape our sound with EQ only. You'll also notice that I quad track guitars, and I don't do this all the time, but because this song is so bare and there's no other instruments going on, I decided to quad track to make it sound bigger, and also share with you guys a cool EQ trick or technique that I've seen on YouTube by other YouTubers, and I've just sort of refined it for my guitar and my tastes. So we're just going to make very basic EQ moves. Now, as I show you these settings, again, I didn't just pick these out of thin air or copy what somebody else on YouTube did. I have a whole video talking about EQ sweeping and how I found out what frequencies I want to cut or where I want to low pass and such. So please check out the EQ sweeping tutorial after this or before this, whatever you want to do. I talk in detail how I found these frequencies, okay? First, our hard left and hard right guitars. We're going to be making standard cuts, and in the case of my guitar, I did the following. I've got a high-pass filter at 100 Hz with a Q of 2, or bandwidth of 2, whatever. I have a 1 dB cut at 200. I have a pretty decent mid-sweep around the 789 range, with with a Q of 2, just 6 dB cut. And finally, I have a low pass at 12. Okay. Now, you're going to want to copy this exact EQ setting for the other guitar that is hard pan. So this EQ setting is only for the hard pan guitars. Okay. Now, for the tracks that we pan 70% left and right, we're going to approach the EQ a bit differently. Now, the last thing we want to do is start overloading the highs. Okay. When you start quad tracking like this and even double tracking, you're going to overload some frequency ranges that are just going to kill your ears. Lows and highs specifically, and mids. So This time around, we're going to take out more of the high frequencies and cut at a different spot in the mids. This kind of EQ technique will create separation from each guitar. So you have 4 guitar parts that are played, but you have 2 separate EQs on both sides of your ears, right? Both sides of the panning 0. And it'll blend together and you'll create a bigger sound this way. So the first thing that I did was I did a high pass again at 100 Hertz. Just works well for my guitar, okay? Maybe you can high pass at 90, or maybe you have to high pass at, 120. Depends, on your tuning and your guitar and everything. Then we're going to be taking out some 200 again, because my guitar really likes that 200 range. It gets really muddy and boomy there. And this time around, I'm going to take out mids at about the 570 range. A little bit more of a cut. It's around 7 dB. The Q still stays at 2. Now, this time, I'm not going to make a low pass at 12. I'm actually going to make a low pass at 2 to 3K. In this case, 2K sounded the best for me. We didn't do a lot to these guitars. We just did some EQ shaping here. Now, there are still some things that I was hearing that I did not like. So now we move on to the EQ surgery aspect of this. And we can do this on the bus. So take all 4 of your guitar tracks and send them to a bus or a group or whatever it is in your DAW. Because now that we have a sound that we like, we can start doing like the surgical work. We're like, ooh, this EQ, I don't like this frequency, So I made 2 small cuts. The first cut was at 504, just, a little 2 dB cut. There was just some extra mid-range resonance coming that I didn't like, so I cut out just a little bit of it. The next cut I made was in the now infamous 4K section. I didn't take a drastic cut here because if you actually cut too much 4K or too much of this range, you will kill the excitement of your tone. So I just pulled out just enough here to, so it's not annoying for me. Now, because we're making all these cuts, the side effect is that we get a tone that sounds dark, right? Like under a pillow, one could say. To fix that, we have to bring in another EQ, and we do need to do a little bit of a high shelf, starting from around 2, 3, or 4K. I know it's counterproductive, or it seems counterproductive, but raising a high shelf just a little bit, even like 1 dB, or in my case, 2.5 dB, it's night and day difference. Now here's a little nice tip to help you bring some more life to your guitars. So when you do this, and depending on how hot you're recording into your DAW, maybe your guitars are really low in the mix, right? And you want to bring them up, but you don't want to use the fader. Here's the little trick. You can actually use the W1 limiter, which is a clone, an exact clone of the Waves L1 limiter. And L1 is very popular. It's completely free and part of the download that you're going to get, actually. So by bringing the threshold down, you're going to increase the volume, but you're also going to decrease the dynamic range. In metal guitars, it's not really a big deal if there's no dynamic range. You're going to bring down the threshold, increase volume, and decrease dynamic range. So this is actually the extent of the guitar processing that we're going to do. I bet it's not nearly as much as you thought we'd be doing. Now, a few things to remember. The bass guitar is important. Don't neglect it, and don't try to make your guitar a bass guitar. I generally get rid of anything below 100 on guitars, because that's what bass guitar is for, okay? Now, always EQ in the context of the song that you're working on. You can find a certain particular bad frequency in solo mode with a guitar if you're resonance hunting. But if you're trying to do tone shaping, you really want to listen to the song as you're doing this with your guitar. You don't have to quad track if you don't want to. I usually don't. I just thought I would try something new for this video. And of course, the tighter and better you play your guitar parts, the bigger it's going to sound. So tighter equals bigger. Okay? Tighter, bigger. And finally, experiment with your own EQ and different plugins and so on and so on. I've just shown you the technique. If you copy my settings on your guitar, it's not going to work. I've only shown you the technique. So take the technique and apply it to your situation. All right? That does it for this one, guys. I'm going to go ahead here in the end of the video. I'm going to A-B a lot of the different sounds that you can get. For example, I'll have the song played just with mastered audio, unmastered audio, guitars only, guitars with bass, guitars without bass. All that will be in the timestamp below, so you can skip around and listen to which file you want to hear first, or you can just listen to them all right in a row. It's up to you. But anyway, if you found this video useful, consider a like rating. It's super appreciated from me. Thanks a lot, guys. The support is awesome. All the new subs I've been getting lately, it's really, really motivating for me. So thanks a lot. All right, guys. Have a good one.